Hello, my name is Garrett J. Lawrence, and I'm your host of People Watching. Um, Welcome back to another episode. I'm on vacation right now. Thanksgiving Christmas sweater. It's Christmas time. It's Thanksgiving time. Christmas starts for me the week of Thanksgiving. I don't know about you guys. And we're doing a couple extra episodes this week because we've got some time on our hands outside of work where we can make this possible. Um, we've had a kind of hefty week after the last episode. We had Marjorie Taylor Greene come out and resign her position as a congresswoman. Something that I have a few thoughts on and going to kind of comment pretty briefly on. On top of that, we had X launch its new location sharing feature. So now you can see basically where a bunch of the Save the West accounts are from, and it turns out that a lot of them are from India. And so, yes, I believe that if you're from another country, shouldn't really comment on U.S. politics, nor should you profit off of them, which is what a lot of these accounts have done. And on top of that, we also had the Epstein files continue to pass through. I really want to go heavy on Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation because there's a couple weird things in there. So we're going to kind of get started with first taking a look at that. So on Friday, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned from her position as a congresswoman, Republican congresswoman. This comes kind of right after the Epstein files finally getting a bill through to where we're going to see those files hopefully revealed within the next 30 days. We're not exactly sure how much of the information on them we're going to see because Attorney General Pam Bondi has been given the power to make redactions. But with that being said, Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't had the best track record in terms of her role in Congress. She kind of has very much appeared as a political opportunist, at least in my eyes. She kind of had a little bit of a deal with Speaker McCarthy before there was a vote of no confidence and he had to resign, then being replaced by Speaker Mike Johnson back in September of 2023. But got a little bit of wind blowing on the microphone. Hopefully I'm able to block it. But when that happened, again, it was a little bit of her, she kind of had some assignment issues with Nancy Pelosi, and then inevitably there were some weird kind of, I guess you could say, deals made with Kevin McCarthy. She kind of did a dance for them. She has flip-flopped back and forth with the Republican Party. She was against Trump, and then she was for Trump, and then she was against Trump again. She really is just going with the wind. And it's not, obviously, I'm not excusing Trump from his very erratic behavior and, flip-flopping with the Epstein issue. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, obviously, I think she saw that MAGA was a, sinking ship. And a lot of these thoughts have kind of been shared by a lot of talking heads. So I'm not, these are some of my thoughts, but also I've been able to collect some good ideas from other people. But she saw MAGA as a sinking ship. I think she saw the momentum that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie had, the two Ro Khanna is a Democratic representative, but the Democratic and Republican representatives, how they had kind of some momentum behind them, so to speak, the Epstein files, and specifically Thomas Massie being a very anti-war, anti-Israel. And when I say anti-Israel, he just means anti-sending foreign aid to a country that's just going to go bomb a bunch of innocent people. And so he's against that. He's voted 90% yes with a lot of the things the Republicans have done, so it's not like he's a rhino. He just refuses to vote on things that are going to bring our debt any higher up, or increase, expenditure when it comes to foreign aid. And so recently with Ro Khanna, he has taken up the kind of battle of trying to get the Epstein files out. He was successful in that this week. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene saw that there was discontentment among the MAGA, Inc. Incorporated, as coined by her, I guess, in her resignation letter, and maybe some other people. But she was very adamant the last several months with Trump. It seemed like there was a souring relationship. I think strictly politically. I don't think personally. And she saw a discontentment among some MAGA supporters, and she saw that as an ability to create leverage and create a platform for herself in order to maybe escape the low ceiling of being a congresswoman and, maybe run for Senate or run for governor or eventually, president or VP. We know that she obviously had VP on her desk prior to the November 2024 election. All that being said, it's pretty apparent that she's a political opportunist and saw this as an opportunity to create leverage, create a platform for herself, escape the shadow of MAGA. And so she kind of bet against the system. The unique thing about this, though, is that Thomas Massie, this has always been his platform. This isn't something new. Same for Ro Khanna. This isn't something new for either of them. This is not something they're trying to turn into a platform because it already was a platform for them. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, had a souring relationship politically with the Republican Party and saw this as an opportunity to further herself a little bit more, make a little extra cash, get a little more popular. And so what ended up happening with that is she was able to, she went up against Trump, and Trump, flip-flopped like 5-6 times on the Epstein files, and she was able to kind of corner him on this, and eventually he ended up doing what she wanted to be done and what Thomas Massie wanted to be done. He signed off on the Epstein files. And literally not even days, like 2 days after this, 3 days after this maybe, she resigns. She gives up the fight, so to speak. Which is really bizarre. It kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, you finally got a win here, and it's underneath your belt, even though you were a political opportunist this whole time and kind of came in at a good time when the wins were going the way you wanted them to be. But I mean, it's a win. Why back down? And I think there's multiple reasons why. I think a lot of people have speculated. Dave Smith has speculated. Nick Fuentes has speculated, just to name a few, that, she may have seen that she was going to get midtermed and it was going to be a rough fight. And I'm kind of quoting Nick Fuentes here. It was going to be a rough fight. She was going to get beat the frick up by everybody around her, and she was going to, make it through the midterms probably, but then Democrats are going to win the House 100%. We can thank the Republicans for that and the civil war they've got going on over there. And she was, kind of going to get screwed with her assignments. It may not have been a profitable experience for her if she remained in office. Especially when it came to building her own platform. And so Nick Fuentes has speculated, kind of quote him, that might be a legitimate reason. It's either that or they have blackmail on her, or, on her family or something, or they were like, hey, we're going to kill you if you don't resign, because these files are going to bring about some chaos. So that's kind of everything with Marjorie Taylor Greene, to kind of keep it short. Trump called it a great thing for America. I am no fan of political opportunist, and I'm not going to say I'm glad she's gone, and I'm not going to say it's a great thing for MAGA, but or the Conservative Party or Republican Party at all. But I will say that I think political opportunists have no place in government, nor do they have a place in society, in my opinion. And they build a facade, around a platform in order to leverage people's feelings or what they believe in to make money for themselves and get power for themselves, rather than people like Thomas Massie where I feel they genuinely do care about Americans and genuinely do want to make change. So I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene was capable of doing that long term. So cheers to her. We wish her well. We wish her well. She was definitely a diva, for sure. She was loud. Someone even say obnoxious. She was definitely a smart aleck, for sure. We kind of like that in politics over here. We like people that can talk back to, people in power. So, but that happened. And then around the same time this week, the location feature came out for Twitter, and boy, was that a fun thing to watch, explode all over Twitter. We had Save the West accounts turning out they're, from India. We had some people even get busted for using VPNs to say they were from the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security, multiple screenshots, multiple screen recordings, multiple videos, multiple breakdowns, before their location was removed, as for every other government agency on Twitter. It said the account was created in Israel, off of the Tel Aviv App Store. Really weird. Not really surprised at all at this point. Israel has major fingers in our politics, and we're at the point now where you can't really deny that. And I think it's silly when, people are like, oh no, like AIPAC is not representative of Israel at all. It's just about our American-Israeli relationship. And I don't want to go AIPAC all the time. And I don't want to say Israel's your Israel. What does this have to do with Israel? I don't want to say that all the time. But this situation, I think it's pretty applicable, where a Twitter account turns out that the and the account was made in Israel. Not that, it could have been like an intern or somebody they hired over there, or somebody who was running the account happened to be in Israel at the time. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the account creation stuff, like there are some Save the West accounts that are probably ran, like it's probably like politicians, for example. Some politicians on Twitter might pay somebody in India or Pakistan or South Asia to run the account for them because it's easier. But I will say to that, why didn't you hire an American? So there's kind of two sides to that. But it was pretty silly. But it turned out quite a few accounts are from different countries and parading around as, United States, citizens, I guess. So it was pretty funny to see. They ended up, turning it off. I'm forgetting the name of the current CEO or whoever of X/Twitter, but he was like, oh, we're turning that off because it could spread misinformation or, promote terror, which I think is hilariously stupid of rationale. But oh well. So that was kind of funny. Not only that, but Deportations kind of picked up last week in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pretty freaking awesome. I've kind of moved to the point where I'm starting to have less and less mercy for the deportations. The kind of grab on my empathy that some of the deportations may have had is starting to wane, and I think it's waning for a lot of people. Once you start to see the numbers and how much these illegal aliens cost America, I think the more it becomes frustrating that they've been able to just occupy this country for this long without any repercussions. I think it's really silly when people are like, oh, but they're not criminals when they come here. What do you mean? They broke a law. They broke the first law, the one law we have, the number one law. Excuse me. The number one law. Like, don't come here illegally. Don't hop the fence, please. That's the one law we have, right? And so that automatically makes you a criminal. Also, there's a little bit of psychology to that. It's like, if you're willing to do that, you're probably more likely to commit crime within the U.S. And we know that statistically, thanks to DHS and HHS, that illegal aliens are 2.4 to 5.4 more times likely to commit a crime than a legal immigrant or a legal American citizen, which that's just wonderful. And I have all the data on that. So that's funny. And then obviously people try to play on your empathy and say like, oh, but they do pay taxes, they pay, X amount of taxes, or when they do this thing. Again, that's only 17% of what they're costing US. That doesn't cover the other 83% that they cost us. The big thing, the big thing really is that they cost us 150 to 451 billion dollars a year. You can thank DHS for that stat. It could totally be fake, but it's hard for that to be fake. Texas was allowed to kind of keep track of a lot of their numbers. They were saying that within a month, they had, I can't remember how many hospital visits from illegal aliens, but it costed the state $30 million. Another annoying thing too is people like to say, oh, they want to do the hard jobs. Here's the thing. It's not about doing the hard jobs. The preference is that it's exploitation. It's that they can pay these people low wages and essentially enslave them here, because the risk is that you get deported if you don't go along with this. A lot of people miss that. And the other thing too is like when people are like, oh, like Americans are unwilling to work, you're out of your mind when you're saying that. We've got 7.4 million unemployed people, and they should get first priority to the jobs. They should. Think about the food plant in Nebraska in July this year, where ICE had a raid on it, and they had 100+ people working there illegally for crap wages. And then like the next 2 days, they had insane numbers of applicants because they had to hire a bunch of people. You know what I mean? I mean, nobody's thinking about that. They're just thinking about the images, the images of illegal aliens getting arrested. First of all, no families are getting separated either. Citizen minors are getting deported with their illegal parents. It's also completely impossible to deport any legal American citizens. So that's a complete lie when people say that. There's no way it can happen. That's not how the process works. Obviously, unless they try to snatch your ID or identification, whatever. But in the end, you're still going to win a lawsuit over that. The other thing, too, is people think, like people miss, like if they think you committed a crime, it's not against your rights for them to ask you a question about it. Furthermore, the idea of due process is totally ruled out when you break the law by coming to the country illegally. Again, due process, too, it applies to certain situations. It doesn't apply to everything. One of those things is hopping the fence illegally. I like calling it that, hopping the fence. It's a little more fun sounding. So that, that kind of ticked me off. You had like 20% of the kids in the school system in Charlotte, North Carolina, like go missing, which is hilarious. It just shows that like we're all paying tax dollars for. Listen. I want these kids to get education. I want them to get a good education, and I want them to have good influences. But their parents being here illegally, like it doesn't give them the same advantages of the people that are here legally. You know what I mean? So don't we want to help them out and send them back so they can come in legally? Again, then people want to think that, I don't mean to yap or ramble or anything, but there are people who genuinely think that these deportations are super provocative. Again, I want to ask you, what's your solution to that? We've given them the opportunity to go back to their country, paid for flight, $1,000 credit, all through the CBP One app. Like, we've given you the good option. We've given you the nice, kind, flexible option. And if you don't like that, well, then it's going to get provocative. You committed a crime. We're being really soft on that crime. You know what I mean? And then when people are like, oh, well, we shouldn't prosecute this crime because it's nonviolent. It's like, what other nonviolent crimes are you going to not prosecute? You know what I mean? You're not going to prosecute fraud? You're not going to prosecute tax fraud or employer fraud, or I'm using the frauds. But what are you going to do? You're not going to prosecute those? I mean, I don't want to say like online harassment is inherently actually violent, you know what I mean? But if you get in an argument online and they try and dox you, you're not going to prosecute that person? Just silly. So it's a dumb idea, and a lot of people tend to run with it and think it's worth it. But, I mean, anyway, you got people walking around Charlotte, North Carolina, around job sites, and nobody is at the job sites, which is insane. and I know some contractors might say, well, I've got to hire these guys because Americans don't want to do the work. Well, do they not want to do the work, or are you not paying them enough? Which I think that's a completely different issue. Affordability is a different, pay and affordability is a completely different issue. And I think it does have something to do with immigration. You import a bunch of people who aren't paying taxes and aren't contributing the same amount as us, but they're still buying groceries. It's going to drive the prices of all those things up. So it's just silly. People don't understand. People don't understand, and they're unwilling to learn. And they're also just, again, it's like hooked on, like this weird, like woke, weird, just gay, homosexual, like empathy. It's got its claws in you, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. I love the gays, but the empathy freaking claws in everybody, like, you look at the image of the, restaurant worker getting, pulled down by ICE because he's there illegally, and you're just like, oh no, I hate that that's happening to him. And it's like, yeah, do you not see the knife in his hand? Or do you not see the fact that he was arrested a couple of months ago for some CP stuff, and then he was let out, and that's happened 3 and 4 times? People miss that stuff. Or you see, oh, the kids, they're sleeping on the concrete. It's like, what are we going to do with their parents? Like that's not those kids' fault 100%. And we do want to accommodate. Maybe you don't want them sleeping on the concrete, right? That's just like a issue with the facilities. But like, your parents committed a crime. Your parents should think of you. It's coming here illegally from like, some of the time, right? There's some legitimate times where they actually are seeking asylum, but not everybody is seeking asylum and trying to claim that, all right? You're just trying to mooch off the system 99% of the time, okay? That's just provable at this point. But if you're a parent and you got kids, you really gonna put your kids on the line and hop the fence illegally? You really gonna do that? Or are you going to actually do it legally and give them a good life that way? Like everybody else, like every other American that has come to America prior to the immigration laws and how they changed. You know what I mean? When prior to the immigration laws, people came to America legally and they assimilated, but they still had culture. You know what I mean? It's like there was this thing back in the day. It was, you were a Italian American, you were a German American, a Polish American, a Mexican American. What happened to that? You were an African American. You didn't import your culture here. Like, why are we having to worry about freaking Somali gang violence and gang affiliation in Minnesota? Like, that's how bad it's gotten. And we're just going to sit here and let it keep rolling. We're going to let it keep rolling. So, this is kind of an emergency meeting of an episode. We'll have more to talk about tomorrow. But, like, is that what the American dream is? The American dream is, I want super expensive groceries and super expensive housing, and I want gang, affiliation, freaking tribal warfare in downtown. That's what I want. I want third world gang affiliation in Minnesota. I want that in my city. That's what I'm voting for, right? And not only that, but I'm going to pay for it to be imported. That's what I want. That's on my Christmas list this year. Importing the third world freaking gang violence and gang association and freaking Islam and Sharia law. I want all that imported here. That's on my Christmas list. Santa, can you give that to me? Santa looks at me and he freaking... Shut up. Wake up. Get a grip. Get a grip, dude. We're going to change America. We're in the midst of a big change right now. It's going to be awesome. These deportations are going to keep getting more extensive. Foreign-born people are not going to be allowed in office. I think that's the next necessary step. Even if you try and fool your marriage visa, like some people, we're gonna clean up the streets. We're gonna clean up America. That's the goal. Clean it all up. Clean house. Get rid of the freaking legacy Republicans and Democrats that do nothing for this country. Get rid of the freaking neocons and get rid of them all. Reset the system, baby. I'm hoping Trump just goes freaking nuclear with the Epstein files and just everybody's implicated and everybody's got to go. Everybody's got to go. Billionaires go to prison. The evil ones. Republicans go to prison. Democrats go to prison. Everybody goes to freaking jail. That's it. Total justice. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. But that's the dream. Just total nuclear political collapse. And we're able to fix everything and reset the system and give young people a chance. Let them settle down and have a family and not have to deal with freaking gang affiliation on the sidewalk trying to walk their kid, in their lower class neighborhood of townhouses in freaking Charlotte, NC. Let's get rid of that stuff. Let's make life normal and great and prosperous and lively for everybody. That's the goal. That's all I got. Short episode, kind of in a little bit of an emergency meeting. A couple things on my mind I wanted to talk about. I've been talking about it on Instagram. I've been tweeting a lot. Just thought I'd kind of dive into that some more. My nose is clogged. I hope you enjoyed the scenery. I did. The sun is setting. That's all I got. Have a good one.